Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and thank you very much for joining me here again. And in today's video, I'm just basically going to cover the two derbies that happened last weekend. Of course, I'm talking about the Stormers versus the Lions and the Sharks against the Bulls. And although it's always exciting to see the local teams going at each other and showing their own mettle in the local fields, it is always exciting to look forward to now the international teams eventually slunging it out for the top 8 positions for the URC coming up, obviously, as we're going into the semi-finals and finals eventually. And I do also feel that we have been entering a bit of a stage where we're getting to a bit of derby fatigue. Where we kind of, we are looking forward. We feel like we can't wait for now some of the international teams. Let's get our boys to go out there and try and fight for those top 8 positions. And let's see, which South African teams is going to make it through to the semis and finals. Hopefully it's going to be a South African team. I'm holding thumbs from my team, the Stormers. Although in recent weeks, they haven't really been doing too well. But before I give too much away, let's roll the intro and let's talk rugby. So it's now really gone on for quite a while for the bad luck with the Stormers. But unfortunately, it's just like they're their own worst enemies at this point. And it's sad to see, they started off so strong with their first 8 consecutive games going really well, winning every single one, going from strength to strength right at the beginning, winning the previous champions of the URC. And then going forward for 8 consecutive games, even some games within the Investor Cup, totally dominating their opponents. And to come within the last 4 games of the URC, local derbies, every single one of them, and to flat out just fall flat like they have. It's heart-wrenching and really sad to see for me, especially, huge fan of the team and everything, and a lot of the players within that team. To see this kind of substandard performance week after week, it's difficult to watch, to be honest. They set plays and the discipline was really well done. I can't fault them at all in that area, but to come in and not being able to play tactically, and to also having ball handling issues and unforced errors that really give too much ball possession and pressure away, shifting the pressure to the opponents the whole time. It's just, it's not what you expect to see from a team that has won 8 of their first consecutive games. So it is really either the Lions that made, or their opponents that made some major improvements to their game plan and their tactical plays, or the Stormers just, I don't know, there's this energy that is missing from them. At some point of the game, even the players looking like they don't know what to do next. Like they can't find a cohesion, they can't find a actual strategic game plan to move forward from that point. And it's difficult to see and to actually pinpoint where is the missing link here. So it is definitely a bit of an issue that they can look at this point, because the whole, the unforced errors that constantly turn over ball position and then counts against them in pressure, especially, and then allowing the Lions to keep territory dominance from happening, and then translate that territory dominance into points on the scoreboard. Of course, the Stormers did launch quite a few really well executed attack movements. But you get to the point where you just see the Lions closing ranks with world-class defense, plugging those gaps, not giving the Stormers any kind of opening so they can make a line break, and then taking that forward into points on the ball. Although there were several held-up tries, I think about 3 held-up tries, one of which I don't quite agree with. And I'll talk about that in a bit. But there was another try that was disallowed due to an obstruction by Ivan Ruiz. And I'll just want to pause there for a minute and just talk about that, as I don't agree with that decision from Christopher Allison either. Now, of course, this happened off a penalty kick by the Stormers that resulted in a 5-meter line out. Stormers, as you know, usual within their set plays, they win the line out. Ivan Ruiz is the first receiver. He goes down, he hands the ball down to his hooker. The 2 props bind right next to him, and they start driving forward. At that point, there is no defender behind Ivan Ruiz. So exactly who was he obstructing? As they start driving, the mall binding has been made, and they're now starting to drive. Now defenders are piling in behind Ivan Ruiz to bind into the driving mall to try and stop it. Unfortunately for them, the Stormers managed to drive over the goal box and they get the try down. Now then, of course, the TMO contacts Christopher Ellis and then to show him a possible obstruction by Ivan Ruiz, Stormers number 8. And I don't agree with that. I honestly don't agree with that. There was no initial defender behind Ivan Ruiz for him to obstruct. Now, I do know that there has been several instances within driving malls where a ball carrier drives forward and he has a support player with him. And that support player then positions himself as they both driving forward over the try line, but he positions himself in front of the ball carrier so that no tackle can be made. But this is, at a point where the defenders haven't bonded, they haven't started binding in the mall. They're trying to go for the ball itself or for the ball carrier itself. But in this instance, there was a clear binding from both teams in the mall, and the drive was over the try line. So I'm not quite convinced by Christopher Allison and the TMO's conclusion in this matter. But yeah, unfortunately, nothing I can do about it now. The second one was a foul play on Andre Guventer within the goal box. He was basically also from a very strong carry going over the goal box. He was being tackled by a Lions defender already. Then Como comes from the front and basically in an upright tackle connects with Andre Guventer. There is head contact with Koma's shoulder, and he then basically falls down with Andre Guventer, positioning his body between the ball and the ground, basically holding it up. But now the conclusion was that yes, it is foul play, meeting the yellow card threshold. But then again, also Allison does not award the try. Now, in my opinion, and I think it is Rule 15 of the World Rugby rules with foul play and no try. Whenever foul play is engaged to prevent a try from happening, or that resulted in a no try, that immediately should be a penalty try. So in my opinion, that should have been 7 points in the pocket for the Stormers at that point, and unfortunately it wasn't awarded. So that's the second point I do not agree with him on. Other than that, calling the game straight down the middle, I'm pretty happy with every single other call that was made on both the Stormers and the Lions. It was just those two that I do vehemently disagree with him. But leave me your comment in the comments field below. Just tell me, do you agree with me or don't you agree with me on that one? Yeah, the Lions discipline, leaving them completely. And I do feel a bit sorry for Andre Guventer, as he really took a bit of a knock to the chin. actually having to go off for a head injury assessment, both from Korma, basically that yellow card that I already spoke about, and then from Viren, that also went into an upright tackle, clear foul play on Andre Geventer, the chin again connecting with the shoulder. And in the bunker, it was concluded that it meets the high degree of danger threshold, so therefore 20-minute red card was issued, which is a bit of a knock for them. But yeah, I mean, they have got quite a bit of talent in that team, so they could still carry this through. But again, the Lions' territory dominance from really balanced front row and backline tactical attack movements that they launched, keeping the pressure on the Stormers the whole time, and then finding those gaps within the Stormers' defensive lines that translated into 24 points to 10 at the final score, which I do firmly believe should have been at least 24-22. If you do count in the 12 points that weren't awarded, that I do not agree with the referee on that one, which could have possibly been 24 all. But that's just speculation. I cannot say for sure that Sasha Fama-Komzulu would have converted that the try, but that was disallowed due to the obstruction. But yeah, with the pressure from the Lions, the continuous pressure basically translating in a winning score for them, I do believe that at least the impact made in that scoreline from those two disallowed tries would have seen the Stormers getting a losing bonus point in that regard, but unfortunately didn't happen. And there's no use crying over spilled milk, like I've said so many times in the past. Monne van der Berg receiving the URC player of the match, and well deserved. I mean, that kid played a hell of a game. And the Stormers are just really going to have to jack up their game. They're going to have to look at especially their unforced errors and ball handling skills going forward from there, because at this point, they're only facing the Bulls now on the 14th of March in the final local derby, and then from there on it's going to be the Dragons, Munster and Toulon the next 3 games after that, and then obviously that's going to translate into eventually the playoffs for the top 8 spots. And if the Stormers are not going to make some drastic improvements to their game plans and their gameplay, they're going to drop out of that top 8 faster than a bowling ball dropping from a 10-story window. And I'm serious about this. They are standing a real chance of actually missing out on the top 8 positions going into the semi-finals and finals for the URC. And if that happens, it's going to be really sad, especially for a team that in their opening of the season made, like I said, 8 consecutive wins. Really strong performance there. For them to really just trickle down like this is really sad. That's all I can say about it. Sharks versus Bulls game. Playing, I just first off just have to say that it's quite innovative, and I think it's something that I like to see. All players on the pitch basically wearing their usual kit, but everyone donned out within their respective varsity rugby team socks, just to kind of for the Origin week within the URC, and then basically just showing honor and respect to where they came from within their respective alma maters and varsities that they used to play in. Wilco Lowe basically starting off on the bench, which is, I suppose, wasn't really necessary, as they had plenty of fantastic talent within the team already, from Rowan Orkia starting off in the front row this time around, and then of course Ambrose Papier, Sebastian de Klerk, Andre Pollard, all of them basically putting up a absolute masterful performance in this game, being a bit marred in their discipline right at the beginning, having some difficulty with unforced errors, and of course conceding 2 penalties already within the first 4 minutes of the opening 4 minutes of the game. But they did manage to recover well, scoring then 3 tries within the first half, and then coming back with a bonus point try within the second half, and another try after that. So really doing well for themselves on that one. Sharks not really doing very well going into half time with a big fat 0 on the scoreboard. But they did manage to try and fight back really hard within the second half, scoring 2 tries, one by Jacobs and one by Edward van der Merwe. The Jacobs try, the only one being converted by Jordan Hendrikse, unfortunately, putting them at a final score of 12. And then, both teams, I felt, injected quite a bit of energy, throwing a lot of energy into this game for themselves. Sharks dominating within the set plays, and a lot of the attack movements was really well executed. Unfortunately, though, for them, that on the contrary, the Bulls doing really well and dominating within defense, territory possession, and strategic kicks. And that reflected on the scoreboard with like I said, a fantastic try by Sebastian de Klerk from a brilliant cross kick by Andre Pollard. And then the opening try by Canan Moodie, where he can really pat himself on the back, kicking a quick chip and chase, chasing down his own up and over there. And it was a bit of a chaotic scramble for regaining of possession of the ball just inside the goal box, as he was fighting with 3 other Shark defenders. Although they were kind of just, chaotically in a big mess, just kind of falling over each other, allowing Canan to regain possession of the ball off a really fortunate bounce for Moodie, and then being able to jot down the ball just before the deadline there, which really did well for him, kind of opening the scoreboard for his team, scoring the first 5 points, And then, unfortunately, some injuries coming in on this game as well, and Zamkar having to go off with a head injury assessment. Luckily for him, he was back, about 20 minutes later, still continuing the game, seeing the game out for his team right through to the end. And then, of course, unfortunately, Jaden Hendrickson not being so lucky. Just before the Sebastian de Klerk try happened, Jaden Hendrickson coming in for a tackle on the Bulls ball carrier, not having his head in the correct position. Unfortunately, saw that he made contact with the attacking player's knee, and visibly dazed after that one. Trying to get up, forcing himself to get up and just struggling to fall down, and then falling down right back at that point. Not really knowing where he was, it almost seemed like. So, but luckily for him, he had the EMTs around him very quickly. A fantastic response time there by those guys, and was able to stabilize him, getting on the stretcher, and then drive him off on the little golf cart there, speeding him to the nearest hospital as quick as they could there. So I'm hoping there's at this point, as far as I know, there has been no kind of report on his physical well-being, but I'm really hoping and holding thumbs that he'll be back on the pitch in no time, playing for the Sharks again. It would be sad if he starts missing the playoffs for them, but yeah, that's all up in the air. We'll have to just see what happens. And then Jordan Hendricks as well, in a really unfortunate tackle, being taken down by a Bulls defender from behind, and in his movement already going down, Canan Moodie comes in for a low tackle from the front, but unfortunately in the downward movement his chin connects with Canan Moodie's shoulder. Now unfortunately that does kind of brings in the mitigation for the tackle and puts it right down below the threshold for a yellow card. So luckily for Moodie, unluckily for Jordan, Bulls still remaining at 15 men from that little encounter. But yeah, I think at that point the bullet was already fired. The horses bolted, and it's not really that they could recover any semblance of a comeback at that point in the game. Final score being 41-12. And yeah, if the Bulls can continue playing like they are now, I think they really have a really good chance of making their way into the finals or semi-finals and finals for the URC, as the playoffs are going to start soon. They're lying comfortably at the 8th position. Sharks, I'm not too sure of. They have been performing well against the Stormers, but then kind of fall flat against the Lions and the Bulls now recently, putting them firmly in the 11th spot, only basically preceded by Ospreys or Connacht and Ospreys at number 10 and 9. The Bulls, like I said, lying at the number 8th spot. They are just below the Lions at number 7, and then the Stormers coming in on the 5th spot at this point on the log. And this is what's so sad about it, because for a team that had the honor of donning the number 1 spot for 8 weeks in a row, it must be really sad and really demoralizing that within 4 weeks they fell down so hard that they would skip down 4 spots on the URC log. And coming into the playoffs, they're really going to have to pull their socks up, and Coach John Dobson is really going to have to start working on the Stormers, maybe focusing a bit on their ball handling, their unforced errors, their discipline quite a bit, although within the last game they had it really right down, not conceding too many penalties, but they can work on those set plays or their overall game strategy. Like I said, they looked like they didn't know what was going on. They didn't, at some points, looking like they didn't know what to do or how to continue from there. So maybe get a more of a cohesive or visible game plan going that they could fall back on and rely on to carry them forward, because just focusing on discipline and set plays is not going to win the match for them. They really need to work on the tiny mistakes that cost them right at the end. For example, the ball handling, when they make a fantastic or execute a fantastic attack movement and get right up to the opponent's try line, and then it gets botched just by losing the ball forward, losing the ball into contact, wildly, like I said, tossing the ball back towards the support that doesn't exist. So there's a lot of those improvements that they can make there. So anyway, guys, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. Hit me a like and subscribe at the bottom if you haven't done so yet. And if you do like my content, please just leave me a comment in the comments field below. Give me your opinion of where the Sharks can improve. Do you think the Sharks still have a chance of actually making it through the playoffs into the finals, the top 8 for the finals, the semi-finals and finals? What do you think the Stormers need to do to maintain their position and their grasp on the top 8 for the URC going into the final leg now for this season? And what do you think? Do you think the Bulls or the Lions have the better chance of making it into the semis or finals here? I always love hearing from you guys, and yeah, please just hit me up. I'm looking forward to see you guys with the next video. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Peace out.
Up here to Pollard. Pollard's going to opt for the cross kick. Sebastian de Klerk. He's got a lot to do. De Klerk beats the first. De Klerk gets it done.
Well, a patient build-up from the Vodacom Bulls. Eventually they took it home. That man, Sebastian de Klerk. But 2 good pieces of play from Andre Pollard. Started off with that little chip, and then it was momentum, wave and wave. Players around that ruck area dominating, staying on the gain line. Eventually there was space, there was opportunity, and it was out wide to Sebastian de Klerk. A little bit of work to do, steps on the inside. That's why the wingers are always rated on finishing ability. And Sebastian de Klerk does it beautifully, beats his man one-on-one. It's a race for the corner, over he goes.
Wait for the